Educational GMAT. Your partner in your GMAT journey.
It's an official question, guys. This is an official question. So one should be ready to get these kind of questions as well in the exam. I'll give you guys good 5 to 7 minutes for this. Think about it. Yes, guys. So this kind of, I think, table would help you. I've just captured the data already present in the question into a table format. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's given actually. The store sold no other newspapers that day, Dhruv. So that actually is true. You are right. You are right. Oh, no, 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 no. Actually, this you have a very good question. But if you look into this language, Dhruv, if R percent of stores revenues from what? Correct. So we are only talking about newspaper sales here. The store may sell other things also, but this question is just considering newspaper sales. See, because this is an official question, so I would expect that the language is very, very clear and researched. They give very high quality questions. Okay, so let's interpret this table as is given to us that newspaper A, each copy is $1, and newspaper B, each copy is $1.25. Then R percent of stores revenues from newspaper sales was from newspaper A. So R revenue percentage, right? R percent of the store's revenues are from newspaper A. So obviously the remaining 100 minus R percent revenues of the store were from sale of newspaper B, right? Similarly, P percent of the newspaper that the store sold were copies of newspaper A. So P percent were copies of newspaper A. So which means the remaining 100 minus P percent were copies of newspaper B, right? So now let us assume that the total number of newspapers that the store sold, the total number was X, let's say. Now, can you tell me how many copies of newspaper A were sold? P% of X, right? Because were P% of the newspaper sold were copies of newspaper A, right? So P% of X. Similarly, how many copies of newspaper B were sold? Very nice. 100 minus P% of X. Are you guys with me? Okay. Now, given this data, can you tell me what was the revenue that the store derived from sale of newspaper X? Newspaper A. What was the revenue in terms of dollars, right? How much revenue did the store derive from sale of newspaper A? Obviously, it would be number of copies of newspaper A sold into price per copy, right? So the revenue that the store derived from sale of newspaper A would be 1 into P into X upon 100. Similarly, can you tell me how much revenue did the store derive from sale of newspaper B? Price per copy of newspaper B into the number of copies of newspaper B sold, right? Which would be 1.25 into this, right? 1.25 into 100 minus P upon 100 into X. Are we clear so far? Now, this is the total revenue that the store derived from sale of newspaper A. This is the total revenue that the store derived from sale of newspaper B. So can we find out the ratio of the revenue derived from sale of newspaper A is to sale of newspaper B? How do you find out the ratio? Obviously, this divided by this. That's how you find out the ratio of revenue from sale of newspaper A is to sale of newspaper B. So now notice this is what I have done. So here is where I am calculating the ratio. So notice X and X will get cancelled from the numerator and denominator. So we are, and obviously 100 will also get cancelled. So this is the ratio of revenue derived from sale of newspaper A is to sale of newspaper B. Now notice we are also given the percentage of revenue derived that the store derived from sale of newspaper A. Similarly, this is the percentage revenue that the store derived from sale of newspaper B. So from this also we can again find out the ratio of revenue derived from sale of newspaper A is to sale of newspaper B would be how much? R divided by 100 minus R. This divided by this, correct? But notice this figure as well as this figure, they represent the same thing. What thing? Ratio of revenue derived from sale of newspaper A is to revenue derived from sale of newspaper B, right? Since they represent the same thing, what can we do? Equate the two, right? So we are just equating, and then it's just about simplifying so that we ultimately derive R in terms of P, because this is what the question is asking for. So I do cross multiplication and then finally arrive at this answer that R is equal to 400P upon 500 minus P. Clear? So at an overall perspective, what are we doing? We are using essentially this information and this information to arrive at this figure. Similarly, we are using this information to arrive at this figure, but then we realize that both these figures are essentially the representation of the same statistic. And what statistic are we talking about here? Ratio of revenue derived from sale of newspaper A is to revenue from sale of newspaper B. And hence we equate the two.